Hi, we're going to start chapter nine's videos with this one here. This is the first one, and it's called Completing the Phone Book Project. So I want to go through with you the beginning part of this so you can kind of see what we're doing, and then we'll get into it. So when the application is complete, it will let you select a person's name from a list box control, and then it will display that person's number in the label. For that, you can see this in figure 9.6 where they selected Alex and put the phone number in the label to the right. So the application's form has already been created. Shows here in figure 9.7 where we have two prompting labels, select a name and phone number, have a list box that's named name list box, a label for the phone number, which is called phone label, and an exit button is called exit button. So before you start writing code, we're going to go over a summary of how this works. A file named phonelist.txt containing several names and corresponding phone numbers has been created for you and is included with the project. Its contents are shown in figure 9.8, which this is in Notepad, so you can look this up. I'll show you where that's located in the program folder if you want to see that, or so you can see that. Notice that each line in the file contains a name followed by a comma followed by a phone number. It's called comma delimited data. So here I'm going to go in here where I have this stuff stored. And there's my phone book. Inside my phone book folder here in bin, in debug, and in .NET 6.0, there's the phone list.txt file. If you create this from a newer version of Visual Studio using Visual C#, it's probably going to be in debug. There may be another folder in there that you have to go into, but that's where it would normally be in there. This is an old version. The publisher never converted these over, so this is where this one's located for this to work. Okay. So when the application starts, the form's load event handler calls a method named readFile. The readFile method reads the contents of the phonelist.txt file. Each line that is read from the file will be tokenized, which means it's split based on the token. The token in this case is, not based on the delimiter. So each token then is separated out based on the comma because we're using that as our delimiter. So will result in two string tokens, one containing a person's name and the other containing a phone number. Tokens are stored in an instance of the following phone book entry structure. So we have struct phone book entry, and then in curly braces are public string name and public string phone. Phone book entry object is then added to a list. When the read file method is finished, the list will contain a phone book entry object for each line in the phone list .txt file. The load event handler then calls another method named display names. The display names method steps through the list, getting the name field for each object and adding the name to the list box control. When the display names method is finished, the list box control will display all the names that are contained in the list. When the user clicks a name in the list box control, a selected index changed event occurs. You are to write an event handler that responds to this event. The event handler gets the index of the selected item in the list box control, and it uses that index to retrieve an object from the list. The object contains the phone number for the selected name, which is displayed in a label control. So that's what we're going to work on here. So let me move this over out of the way, and we'll get started. I'm going to go ahead and start up Visual Studio 2022. Take it a minute here to get loaded. I get rid of this here. I don't like this here. Okay, and then we're going to do a file, open, project solution. Navigate to where it's located, the phone book folder, and open up the SLN. Okay, take it a minute for this to load. And should be getting done here. Just a second. Load designer. Okay, so there we go. These things up here, this is 125% for the main display. I can't get that to change. Tried a couple of things, got some information from Google and tried stuff, can't get it to work. This is just too old of a file format in the .NET 6.0, because this one is saying that it's no longer supported and will not load in the Windows Form Designer in future releases. So eventually this will not work anymore, but it'll work for us now, so that's good. Okay, so name and phone number are in here as labels for the controls underneath them. I normally would not put a name on these. The book does. This one's called prompt label. Okay, but should click on that. The list box is called name list box. The label underneath phone number is called phone label, and we have our exit button. It's called exit button. Okay, so we got all that. I always like to look and see what the names are of everything. So when I'm working on the text or the code, I know what they are in here. Normally, I would be the one creating this, so I would know the names anyway. But anyway, so we're going to get started here. Well, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and double click on the form itself, just the empty place there to get a Form 1 load event handler there. We're not going to do that yet. We'll get that here in a minute. We need to put in our information here. Our structure is going to be used throughout the program, so we want to declare it before anything else. So it's going to be declared up here right underneath our namespace. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and press enter to get that in there right here. And then I'm going to type this in. Our struct phone book entry. Okay. Put it in curly braces, and then inside here we're going to do our public string name and public string phone. Okay, don't forget the semicolons on those. Now that we got that in there, we're going to go down under the public partial class form 1 : form. We're going to do this above the public form. So I'm going to go in here and press enter. So in here, what I want to do is I'm going to set up our list for our phone book entry. So private list bracket phone book entry and bracket, and then I'm going to back this out here because we're not going to call it. We're going to call this phone list equals new list, and then in brackets phone book entry. Oops, let's try this again. There we go. End the bracket semicolon. End the bracket parentheses and parentheses semicolon. Okay. Then we're going to go down. Scroll this up here a little bit more here. We're going to go to our public form 1, and then underneath it, we're going to create a method, private void read file, parentheses and parentheses, curly brace. We're going to do a try in here, curly brace. We're going to create a stream reader object, input file, a string variable called line, a var entry is going to be equal to a new phone book entry, parentheses and parentheses, semicolon on that. We're going to have a character list, which is going to be our delimiter, so we're going to call DELIM, and that's going to be equal to, in curly braces, single quote, comma, end single quote, end curly brace, semicolon. So this is, we can have more than one delimiter, so we can list all those in here. For ours, we only have the one. So that's what we have there, so that's fine. Okay, then we're going to do an input file is going to be equal to file dot open text, and then our phone list .txt is the file. Okay, and the quote and the parentheses. Then we'll do a while loop. So while not input file dot end of stream. And need to scroll up my notes, see them better here. Parentheses and parentheses. I'm sorry, curly brace on there. So then here we're going to do our line is going to be equal to input file dot read line, parentheses and parentheses. We're then going to set up another list string that we're going to call tokens. That's going to be equal to line.split. And then here we're going to put our DELIM for our delimiters. Okay. And I must have hit the key wrong here. There should be equals in there. There we go. Okay. Kind of keep looking back to see if I have anything that's underlined in red. The greens don't matter for right now. Those should clear up when we actually start running into stuff. Okay, so we're going to do entry.name equals tokens bracket 0 end bracket semicolon, and entry.phone is going to be equal to tokens bracket 1 end bracket semicolon. So then phone list dot add entry. Okay. That takes care of our try part of this. So we need to come down here to the end where our try curly brace is. Notice it's underlined in red because we don't have our catch on here yet. So catch exception EX. I'm going to go over here and press enter to get that down on this line here. Actually, I don't like to do that. What I'm going to do is back that out of here. And press enter and put it in here. There we go. So this is going to be then our message box dot show, and then exception EX. Okay, that's all there is to that. So now that we've got all that done, we're going to have another. So this is going to be, that's the end of our catch. This is the end of our method here. So I'm going to open up a new line in here, and this is going to be our display names. We have a private void display names, parentheses and parentheses, put in our curly brace. Then we're going to do a for each, parentheses, variable, entry in phone list. Curly brace, name list box, dot items, dot add, and we're going to add entry.name. And it's already all in there with the IntelliSense thing on there. It's the only thing we're doing in that one. That's it. Okay. So we need to go down to our Form 1. Form 1 load. Down here. We're going to call read file. And then we're going to call display names. Okay. That's all there is to that one. So now what we're going to do is go back over to our form. Well, first of all, what I want to do is go through here real quick and double check. This is underlined in red, so something's wrong with that. So I need to go back up here. So I want to make sure I get this straightened out here. So it should be ex.exception or ex.mention method message. So I type that in there. So ex.message. There we go. And then we need a semicolon at the end here. Okay. That's why I go back and double check and make sure I don't have anything underlined in red before I continue on with the next thing. So everything's good there. Okay. So we're going to go back over to our form and double click on our list box. That's going to automatically set up our name list box underline selected index changed event handler for us. And so what we're going to do in here is we're going to set up a variable int index, which is going to be equal to name list box selected index. And it's already in gray there, so it's already knew what we wanted to do. So I just have to press the tab key and it goes through there. Then we're going to have phone label dot text. That's going to be equal to phone list. Oops. Bracket index and bracket dot phone. Okay, so it's going to go to our phone list at the index of whatever index we have set up for this, what we selected as our subscript, and then it's going to get the phone part of that structure that's in there out of there. Okay. So that's all we need with that. That's going to put that then in our phone label. Okay. So the last thing we need to do then is our exit button. This dot close. Okay. So that should do it. So let's see if this works. Click on our phone book, our start button up there, which is phone book. That's the way that they did it in that old version on there. Takes a minute to start up. There we go. Click on a name. There's the phone number for Curran, for Rosa, new phone number, Ingrid. So everything's working. Click on the exit